This morning, the Texas Medical Association's House of Delegates bestows its highest honor, the Distinguished Service Award, on Dr. Donald Wayne Seldin, for 37 years chairman of the Department of Internal Medicine at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas, and clearly one of the most impactful figures in the history of modern medicine. Dr. Seldin graduated first in his class from Yale University School of Medicine in 1943 and served his residency in internal medicine at the Yale New Haven Hospital. In 1945, he was deployed with the U.S. Army to head the military hospital in Munich, and there he testified as an expert witness in the war crimes murder trial of a Nazi doctor. Joining the Yale Medical School faculty in 1948, Dr. Seldin realized that in so large and unusual a department of medicine, there was little opportunity for advancement, so he accepted, sight unseen, a faculty appointment at the country's newest medical school, Southwestern in Dallas, Texas. In January 1951, he and his wife drove into Dallas only to find a collection of ramshackle military barracks, a dilapidated brick building, and trash strewn around the front entrance. This was the medical school. Within a year, the other two faculty members in the Department of Medicine left, leaving Dr. Seldin as the only full-time faculty member and its de facto chairman. He was 31. Despite overtures from Harvard and Yale to return, Dr. Seldin, noticing that medical students, mostly Texans, were just as intelligent but more driven than he recalled from back east, he decided to stay and build instead. He worked and read constantly, not only seemingly everything written on medicine, but also literature, art, classical music, philosophy, archaeology, economics, politics. Just think of everything you would like to have read in your life, and he's read it, and more. He personally gave all the student lectures and the grand rounds every week. He demanded excellence from his students and house staff. He put a student lab on the wards where you performed your own lab tests. Before morning report, you'd better know everything about your patients and have reviewed the literature on their problems. And heaven forbid if your DKA flow sheet showed an overshoot hypoglycemia or hypokalemia. In interns' Wednesday chart conference, he would always find a flaw in your management and excoriate you for it. He was harsh in his criticism of the illogical, the inconsistent, or the incomplete, but poetic in expressing it. He had the charisma, the leadership, and the genius to motivate you to live up to his ideal, perfection in caring for your patients. I vividly recall his commentary on the job of the physician is to relieve suffering, disability, and death in that order. To develop a faculty, he rapidly mined his local talent. Through close relationships with the students and residents, he picked out the most talented to work in his lab, invited them to join the faculty, sent them off typically to the NIH to develop research directions, and then brought them back to stay, all expected to practice the triad of academic medicine: clinical care, research, and teaching. In a few short years, he had built the most formidable clinical research operation in the country. One early faculty member recounted overhearing a couple of Harvard researchers whispering at the annual clinical research meeting in Atlantic City in the late 1950s. "What's going on down there at Southwestern? We usually have 1 or 2 presentations here, and they have 6 or 7 every year." The other replied, "It's Seldin. He's in Dallas now." The first generation of his faculty included the likes of Floyd Rector, Gene Wilson, Dan Foster, Norman Kaplan, Norman Carter, Jerry Mitchell, and John Fortran, all giants and all local Texas boys. In a few short years, Seldin led his young team to work out much of renal physiology, and then he started the nephrology textbook, which he still edits. The legend of Don Seldin spread widely. He served as visiting professor at medical schools across the country, especially at Harvard and the Mass General, where he developed a chief resident exchange program. In the early 1970s, he served on the Belmont Commission, whose report forms the basis of ethical conduct of research and IRBs today. Then in 1985, Joe Goldstein, a medical student from his lab recruited back by the Seldin model, with Mike Brown, won the Nobel Prize for their discovery of the LDL receptor, which led to the statin class of cholesterol-lowering drugs. In all, the Seldin legacy has produced 6 Nobel Prizes, 23 faculty inducted into the National Academy of Sciences, and 11 Howard Hughes investigators on campus. None of this would have happened without Seldin. Today, Dr. Seldin's legacy is enormous. His students and house staff populate the ranks of the best physicians in medical practice, fill erudite journals with their papers, chair departments of medicine, and project forward the vision of their mentor. Earlier this year, a 7-foot-tall statue of Dr. Seldin was placed on our campus plaza, characteristically gesturing with a piece of chalk at a drawing of the nephron. Eugene Braunwald, longtime Harvard professor and for decades the dean of cardiologists, said it well. Seldin was as transformative a figure for medicine in the 20th century as Osler was in the 19th. Dr. Seldin, now 94, still reads voraciously and widely, regularly teaches house staff in award conferences, last year lectured brilliantly on the genetic basis of hypokalemia, devours the Dallas Cowboys and the Mavericks, pursues his passion for the arts, and spends every New Year's Eve dancing with his wife Ellen at Harry's Bar in Venice. A true legend of medicine, and this year's recipient of TMA's Distinguished Service Award, Dr. Donald Seldin.
I feel highly honored to receive this award from the TMA. It's particularly noteworthy that the TMA constitutes a shield for medicine so that physicians can decide such issues as the relief of pain, the prevention of disability, the postponement of death. This organization constitutes the barrier that allows physicians to set standards, to incorporate moral principles into scientific discoveries so that they can apply themselves with wisdom to patients. The award that I received today is not uniquely personal for me. It represents instead a recognition of my students, house staff, trainees who have accomplished so much and who are now conferring dignity not only on the medical school, but on the state of Texas and on medical professions generally. It's not only the profound educational and scientific accomplishments that I am proud of. To be sure, no school can ignore the fact that we have 6 Nobel Prize winners in a small medical school that started in shacks. These Nobel Prize winners include 3 who are medical students in our school and come from small Texas towns. I find this an accomplishment that is noteworthy, and it confers great dignity on the kind of educational process that we offer to students and house staff. On the other side of the coin, I am equally proud of the many, many students who populate the communities in Texas and confer a dignified medical care on patients throughout the state. The award, therefore, is not simply a personal award. It is an award that recognizes the performance of our medical students, our house staff, and our fellows in the care of patients and the discovery of new knowledge. This serpiginous penetration of knowledge and dedication through an institution like a medical school is analogous to what the great Irish poet William Butler Yeats said of his colleagues who participated in the Irish Revolution of 1916. In a late poem, the 80-year-old poet was walking in the municipal gallery in Dublin, looking at the patriots, many of whom had died in the Irish Revolution. And he says, "You that would judge me, do not judge alone this book or that. Come to this hallowed place where my friends' portraits hang and look thereon. Ireland's history in their lineaments trace. Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say, my glory was I had such friends." In an analogous way, I regard this award as a recognition of the accomplishment of my students, house staff, and the institution in which I serve. And I am very grateful to symbolize the honor that this award confers. Thank you very much.